Well, good morning. It gives me great pleasure, and it's my privilege to introduce to you Pastor Ken Dick. He's the founder and executive director of Freedom Session International. Welcome, Ken. It's also great to have Mary Jo Milne, who's the ministry team leader of our support and recovery ministry here at Center Street Church. It's good to have you here, too. Ken, tell us a little bit about yourself and what prompted you to start Freedom Session Ministry?
Well, about ourselves, my wife and I have been married for 30 years this coming summer, next summer, I guess, and we've got 3 children, adult children, boy, girl, boy, 27, 24, and 22-ish. Keeps changing every year, so I'm not sure there. How we started Freedom Session, to be honest, it started because we had 40 people on a waiting list for counseling to see a pastor, and it wasn't because we were such good pastors. It was because, and you always try to figure out why does a church grow, but the church grew from 350 to 600 people in about 18 months. And one of the reasons we think that it grew is because we were preaching and teaching on some of the real issues of life, relationships, what's really going on in homes and in our hearts and in our some of the hurts and wounds we've experienced as children, teenagers, but even in adult life. And we weren't just looking at what's going on in our hearts, but we were also looking at the ways we run. And we were preaching on that, the ways we run from pain. Some people turn to alcohol, drugs. Some people turn to work. Some people turn to food, TV, internet, hobbies. Some people even turn to ministry, anything to not deal with the pain in our hearts, our homes, etc. And so there was a lot of people coming forward for help on those issues. And my role was to look for a way to minister to these people in mass because we had too many to minister to them one-on-one. And so I looked at the healing ministries, the recovery ministries out there, and none of them went deep enough. We tried a few of them, but they didn't go deep enough for some of the issues that we felt we were dealing with. So we ended up writing Freedom Session, and Freedom Session just continued to grow, and so did the church continue to grow. And then some other churches began to ask for our materials, so we published it in 2005, and then we republished it in 2009, and now it's in about 70-some churches in Canada, and a few in the States, a number in the States, and even some around the world. So that's how we started there.
That's great.
Ken, when you talk about Freedom Session, you talk about healing discipleship. Could you describe healing discipleship for us and how it affects the church?
Healing discipleship, I love that term that we came across, and it's really based on John 10:10. Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and that you might have it to the full. And yet in the church, when we're honest, many Christians, that's not their experience. In fact, maybe most Christians, that might not be their experience. The reality is that our stats on, say, sexual abuse is really the same as outside the church. About 1 in 4 Christian women have experienced sexual abuse, 1 out of 7 men. Our stats, there's about 40 to 60% of Christian men who struggle with pornography, purity issues in some way, 15 to 20% of women, and if you add the female forms of pornography, soap operas and fantasy novels, that would go up. We've got about a 25 to 30% divorce rate amongst Christians, and then if we have emotional divorce where mom and dad they're married and they're not going to separate, but they don't really talk. And then we've got amongst Christian women, say about 20% of Christian women have terminated a pregnancy. And the shame that goes along with all those things, which Jesus died for to heal and to set us free. And so healing discipleship is the idea that healing is a normal part of discipleship because a lot of people will come to Christ with some of these wounds, and then we disciple them. We give them information. We teach them in the Bible. We teach them their spiritual gifts, and we channel them into ministry, all great things, but we haven't dealt with the bleeding in their hearts. And I was on a flight back from Toronto in 2009, and I had been ministering to some pastors and leaders, helping them see what we're doing out in BC with Freedom Session, and God spoke to me on the way back, and I know it sounds sensational, and I've only had about 8 of these really intimate conversations with God, but he said, Ken, it's no longer acceptable for my church to lead people to Christ through the church and then refer them to secular counseling or outside recovery ministries after which you disciple them. If you were ministering in a third world country, your gospel would have to include food, water, and the basics of hygiene, but you're not. You're ministering in North America, and one of my people's greatest needs is for emotional healing. And that's when it clicked. Healing is part of discipleship. In fact, Freedom Session is not for those people. It's for people who've hurt or something's missing in their lives and they want to find out where and why.
Yeah. Mary Jo, how are we dealing with this healing discipleship through our support and recovery ministry here at Center Street Church?
At Center Street Church, we offer a number of Christ-centered support recovery groups. We have Freedom Session, Choosing Wisely Before You Divorce, Divorce Care. We have Grief Share, Boundaries, Bold Love. We partner with the Pregnancy Care Center for post-abortion recovery. We network with churches in the greater Calgary neighborhood to share our resources. And our purpose here at Center Street for Support Recovery is to meet people in their brokenness and to lead them to Jesus and teach them how to invite Jesus into their pain and brokenness, where they'll meet his healing power and walk with him in their personal lives.
That's great. Yeah. Thanks, Mary Jill. Well, we've really put Ken to work this week. We've had him teaching, we've had him training. Almost all this weekend he's been teaching and training, and we've got him on all 4 services. But one of the most exciting things that I have to tell you and announce for the first time, well, last night was the first time, today is the second time, is that Ken's ministry, Freedom Session International, is our newest associate agency. And we want to celebrate this recovery ministry. It's been used here at Center Street Church for several years now. In fact, Mary Jill and I are both graduates of Freedom Session. And many lives have been changed and impacted as a result of discovering the hope of healing through Jesus Christ. And we rejoice that this transformation is happening throughout Canada and the U.S. and across the world. This year, we've also been privileged to partner with Freedom Session in the translation of the material into French in Quebec. And our partner church there in Montreal, Rivers Edge Church, is going to be using this translation once it's done, and we pray that it'll be used in more churches in the French-speaking world. And now that's exciting news, and we want to celebrate that. And it's been great to have Ken with us, and why don't you just welcome him and thank him for being here.